Welcome to Tabletop Galaxy. We are an actual play Star Wars podcast. Man, I don't know all my words. This is bad. Playing the Fantasy Flight's Edge of the Empire system, something space. This is the broken... Nope, we're not broken space anymore.
Welcome to Tabletop Galaxy, a Star Wars actual play podcast using this Fantasy Flight system's Edge of the Empire rule set. You're no longer listening to Broken Space, which was a campaign featuring two groups sharing a shared storyline. We're now in some sort of weird interlude where we're going to decide where we go from here.
Are we going to name the next arc tonight?
I guess we can.
Let's figure out the next arc before we worry about names. But I figured from here on we were just going to be Second Sunrise.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I'm good with that.
The Adventures of Second Sunrise.
Ooh, I like that.
On the starship Second Sunrise. No,
Yeah,
wait, that's the wrong. That's no.
You're gonna get a lot of crap for that one.
I know. Hey, I love them both, so you know.
How dare you love them both?
You know, I'm one of those guys.
Raz, you missed me being a fool. So
I mean, all of us.
How about all of us? Really?
That's the summary of me not knowing what I'm doing. Anyway, so this is a session like 0.1 because we technically did a session 0 already. But as our first arc was with the Halcyon Days crew, which they actually still have their finale to finish up, correct?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are on the 18th.
Then, whoa, the usual then. Touche. We are going off kind of on our own adventures in this big, wide galaxy that we have to explore. And so we're here just to kind of talk about our characters, what happened, what we liked, what we didn't like about the show, what our next steps are as far as the characters and as a show as a whole. So you all get to be a part of that and listen in on that and maybe even give some feedback if you want in the chat. We love it. We love talking with you and hanging out. So I think first point of order for me is let's figure out where you are all going to start. Where we left off, you guys it was kind of one of those like picturesque scenes of the big explosion and things falling and going away, and the nice speeder that you borrowed and the voice
Acquired.
We
were the exact opposite of a hot start. Like,
Yeah, we ended on a high note.
yeah. So I had a couple thoughts. It's fun to start stories in a hot spot.
Yeah, totally.
If we wanted to start basically right where we left off, that is a huge possibility, and then kind of the first arc would jump further off from Nar Shaddaa, or we can say y'all made it out, and you could start from a friendly port or
do it
cantina
2 months later,
or even on your ship, yeah, or do like the 2 months later thing. And I'm totally cool with either of those. What is there something that jumps out to any of you?
Do you want to run a chase scene? Because I think that would be pretty darn fun.
Yeah, I mean, chase scenes would be fun. I think there will be ample opportunity for chase scenes. I think the two different things I'm thinking about is it leaves our starting, like we'd have a definite set starting point, and then we'd be jumping into the sandbox,
right?
Which we can talk about here right now, so that it's a little bit more of a directed sandbox as opposed to just being like,
what you're in the Star Wars galaxy. What do you do?
Yeah, because that's my nightmare. Since you have access to a spaceship and a hyperdrive, that's terrifying.
So
we have access to a hyperdrive, and we have me on the crew. That's what should you the most.
Yeah.
So is there any way we could do both? Like do one of those 2 months later crazy exciting scenes to get it open with, and then jump back to how we got there?
Ooh. I kind of like that. Like, I like the idea of starting with a definitive, like, there has been a gap, just to make sure, like, hey, this is a new arc. This is going to be the new story that we're following. Like, I feel like there should be at least some gap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or
One
maybe
thing to keep in mind, and I absolutely love those like record halt. So this is me. If you're wondering how I got here, like go back things, but just keep in mind that that does not always work when it comes to dice. And we got really, really lucky with the flashback episode that everything kind of lined up.
Right.
But like you could start us at 2 months later. Oh, how did we get here? And then we go back to the Nar Shaddaa chase scene. And somebody roll
And
really
die.
crappy,
And
and
somebody
we bounce
dies.
off the side of a building and die. Like the ship blows up.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be something that we did really carefully. From a
Well, another
could actually-
thought is
go
if
ahead.
we do so we could, in lieu of doing chasing on Nar Shaddaa, it could be a kind of thing where like we've just gotten into the ship, but can we get off the planet safely or something?
Yeah, so I have a thought or two.
We could also do the thing where we're like we do the moment after everything went crazy, where we do our thing to get to the ship, and then we know once we've gotten the hover or the speeder onto the ship, we know that like we all just like set right now, like okay, then from there we go to XYZ, and then just in mid session we say, okay, so you get on the ship. Now let's jump forward a couple weeks.
so kind of like an epilogue and then actually start.
So, yeah, sort of.
So I have a couple thoughts. Is we could do the flashback on the podcast, and actually do it sequentially here. So if that makes sense. So like we would like the next session would start with the chase scene. So that when we go like, if you're wondering how I got here, we can actually just like be like, we know how we got here because we did it.
Cool.
It would be one way to do it. The other thing is the more I think about it, it's a cool scene.
It works great in movies. It's just really hard to map onto.
Yeah, it's
tabletop.
not that cool of a scene is my thing. Like it's not something that I think we should try to like frame this whole first arc around or second arc.
So then let's waive it. Let's just say that we race the speeder to the ship. Somehow we managed to get the speeder onto the ship, if you'll let us.
Well, that is something I did want to discuss with you.
Right.
I'm not opposed to you doing that. I did want you to remember that it is the speeder of someone high up in the Black Suns who owns it.
Let's have 2 Black Sun ships that we've stolen.
So this is going to come back around to what I was going to interject, but I was trying to let us finish a couple of thoughts before I threw more out there. So we talked about doing the 2 months later. That's just an arbitrary number, but just I'm going to keep using that as an example. We can still do a hot start chase scene 2 months later. As she opens an Amazon package in my background. We can start 2 months later on Name a Planet, and it can be the Black Sun, the Hutts, whoever found out that that's where we were. We've been kind of the same way that we started on Socorro. We've been doing odd jobs and just paying the bills, but we can hot start with Black Sun has found you. They track down their speeder, their ship, whatever it may be.
Their child.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And we can hot start with a chase scene there. But keep in mind that if we do the chasing, like get away from stuff, that is skipping us right back into, okay, well, we're leaving planet X. Where are we going? So if we do that, we need to plan where we're going.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, if it's like we could do a thing where like we're on Nar Shaddaa, right? So theoretically we do the chase scene and all we're trying to do is like just get away from them. And then once we're away, we go underground and we just hang out and
Yeah, and one of the things that I always try to harp on Star Wars is it seems to forget how big planets actually are.
Yeah, right.
And so like everyone always bumps into each other, even though many of the planets are Earth size or larger. And it's like you can get away from people on Nar Shaddaa and continue to stay on Nar Shaddaa. Like you don't have to jump from Nar Shaddaa to Tatooine. Like you outran them. There are multiple continents. It's an entire.
That's exactly call it
planet-wide city.
Yeah. Well, and one of my thoughts was the person you're actually primarily on the run from is not necessarily super welcome on Nar Shaddaa.
Also true.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in a situation where it wouldn't be that hard to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of a scenario. So
I think Nar Shaddaa is great in that it provides a lot of that kind of undergroundy type stuff that some of us were looking for, and it would be a solid quest hub. But, and not to like call anyone out, but I feel like the Kane character and the Zarko character could also both use a little bit of the away from civilization shooting things kind of lifestyle, not the noir urban adventure politico kind of stuff.
I agree with that, and I think that because I know we're going to talk about sort of obligation and stuff, right? So with that in mind, from my perspective, that's what Zargo sort of wants to get to. But how is he going to do that? Well, he needs to do all kinds of research, and we're on Nar Shaddaa that's controlled by the Hutts. And like last session, we talked about the Hutt treasure planets, and Gregory was kind of like, wait, what? And I feel like that's absolutely Zarko's reaction as well. Like treasure planets, what that's all about. And so my thought is like, why not, I'm cool with Zarko using time wherever we are in civilization to like actively pursue leads and find out like how maybe he has to find some of his contacts and get some information about like, yeah, let's go exploring. Maybe we go find some ancient civilization somewhere. But in order to get there, we need to navigate the underground, the underbelly of maybe Nar Shaddaa or Baka Socorro or wherever it is to get that information even to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and that's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about, particularly with you. I feel like Kane being the hired gun can kind of fit in anywhere in some instances, and away from the Empire and the Republic is probably ideal for him at this point.
Unless we're trying to trying to help him get back in good with the
we already have rebel contacts established on Nar Shaddaa.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've started sort of moving in that direction, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. But I think we're so from a like a bird's eye view of the crew, you kind of are nobodies, right? With a very good taste for cheese fries. Well, you're somebody, but you don't want to be somebody, right?
I'm trying to be a nobody. It's not working.
But you are in a situation where like what's the party funds at right now?
Guys, this is why you need to keep track of your allowance. Pretty sure the party funds are at about 341 credits.
No, I've spent mine. So I'm down to like 40
No, I'm
credits.
talking about mine.
Right.
The ones that I did not spend.
Got it. Yeah.
I want my own money.
I gave you your allowance.
I'm just saying, I don't want there to be a party fund. I want to split all money. We need not do it in session, but like, one of my minor gripes, not the right word, but one of the things at the end of Broken Space was like, I didn't know how much money I was still owed, and I kept having to ask you, but then I would like go to work and forget by the time I got back to Roll20. I would have to be like, let me scroll up in Discord. So like, I honestly had no idea how much money Vosk had for the entire first arc. And I also spent no money except for giving it to Trikala in a back alley. Like, Voss spent no money because I had no idea how much money he had.
We joked about it at one point when right after we had the talk with Shay and sorry, the other guy's name is asleep. Kai, thank you. That she put 400 credits for each of us on the, like, I thought 4 sticks on the table, right? And so I know Ellie was joking or saying that she grabbed all of them. I mean, I took that to be just, like,
I wasn't joking. I grabbed them all.
Well, so then, I mean, then that is something that we need to work out in character, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I did distribute it. Like, that's what I ended up handing back to you guys when it was like, okay, we're going to have a shopping not episode. It was like, okay, well, not only was it like, okay, this is what Ellie grabbed, but I tracked all the money throughout the entire show. Like, I've been keeping the party notes, and so it's like, okay, this is the total money we all have, and this is how much you should have, and that's what I handed out essentially.
Oh, and then maybe I misunderstood, because I thought that situation right there was 400 each. Was it 400 total?
What I understood. It was 400 total, and she promised us 800 additional.
Yeah, total you got 1,200 from her for the two different
for the jobs. Yeah, everybody in the party has made 300 monies from working.
Okay.
There was additional money from some of the Socorro like grunts
sales
that we killed, and then the baddies we beat in the bar and at the spaceport.
So that's how it ended up being 341.
Yeah.
Right. But again, we don't need to get into finer points of money management here. We should worry more about story stuff. I'm just saying, like, I would prefer there not to be a tracked pool and then divvying out, because if we're doing that...
Geek Unleashed rating with a party of 5. Welcome.
It's very exciting here, I promise.
Thank you.
We're talking funds and all sorts of stuff.
We're talking money management.
We're teaching taxes right now.
So you carry the 3.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Go back. I'm lost.
So,
all right. Well, that makes sense though. Going forward, we just make it more transparent and obvious at the end of a session or something.
And again, just at the end of the session, split whatever the money is, and that'll work best for me.
Yep. Yeah. I'm good with that. So story wise, one of the things I want to talk about, and I got my notes up. I'm ready, and some of you have sent me a couple things. Is how do your characters want to manage their obligation? What are kind of maybe like 2 to 3 goals that you feel like would potentially lower that? What are things that your characters are working for or working towards, if that makes sense? And Ellie,
do you want them now?
Yeah. I mean, we can talk, because I kind of want us all to be on. You don't need to know the finer details necessarily, but I think even just being on the same page, so that if something comes up and one of the characters wants to start going off and doing that, you as a player can be like, oh, that's like, I remember that, like I'm aware of that, instead of just like, what's that? Why are they doing that? What's going on? If that makes sense.
Totally.
Just because Vosk is so simple and easy. He has a debt with the Hutts, so he needs to do 2 things. He needs to pay money to the Hutts until he has a 0 balance and thus isn't in their pocket, or he needs to do jobs that equate to money from the Hutts. Like, hey, I'm not going to pay you for doing this job, but you owe me a favor because you owe me, I forget what the actual monetary value was. I think we said it was like 2,500, because that's how much credits you would get if you took that obligation.
It was something like that.
I have it noted on my sheet, but not important right now. But I either need to pay them X number of credits, or I need to do jobs, and then instead of getting paid out for that job, or we get paid for that job and we split the money 4 ways, and then I give mine back to the Hutts or whatever. But working for the Hutts or working for anybody, getting cash and paying off the Hutts is how my Hutt obligation will decrease. I have toyed around with the concept of having, instead of duty, have obligation with the rebels.
Vice versa.
But that would be a conversation for another time.
Yeah, which that's good to even just mention though, because there are opportunities in this game to acquire more obligation, and some of it will not necessarily be intentional. Some of it will be situational, but it also is a mechanic that you all have access to be like, okay, I don't have the funds to do this. These are some people that might have the resources. I'm willing to kind of go in debt intentionally.
Sure. Right.
Are you telling me that I can take more obligation to get my jetpack?
Yes. If you find somebody who's willing to buy you a jetpack and you can work out an obligation number with the GM, that is a thing that you can do. You can say you were lent X number of credits for a jetpack, or you can say, here's this jetpack, you now owe me 5 obligation, 10 obligation.
You can spend a light side point to run into Boba Fett, and he lends you one of his backups.
Perfect.
But you owe him.
Done.
Start the timer
take
off.
those
How long until Return of the Jedi when you no longer have obligation to Boba Fett?
Player knowledge versus character knowledge, Seal.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's where Voss stands. Work for the
In
Hutts,
this case,
or
then
as long as we're doing any sort of job and Voss can get money, like as long as we're doing something and I can get money and I can make payments on my loan, basically.
Well, there's probably, as we kind of go through this conversation, I would imagine there's going to be some ways where we can overlap some of this as well, right? So maybe there's some way that we can reduce your debt at the same time, or your obligation at the same time that we're maybe reducing Ellie's obligation. Like we're doing something for the Hutts to, I don't know, stick it to the Black Sun or something. I don't know, or vice versa, or something. I don't know. Maybe
I mean, at this point, I have a pretty complicated / straightforward plan to reduce my obligation, and that is
kill everybody.
Close.
He's gonna take over the Black Sun.
She's gonna make a Death Star.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Already been done.
No, but now that you bring that up, like overlapping, perhaps we enfold the Hutts into my plan, because this is my plan. Go find a small Black Sun, like, lieutenant, basically, and be like, hey, you want to be the Black Sun branch on Coruscant? Well, depose the current leader. His name is my dad, and here are all of his weaknesses. Go. And then just set him loose on Coruscant and start a mob war, basically, between different branches of the Black Sun. And so I could potentially fold the Hutts into that too and be like turning the different factions against each other. Maybe that would work. Who knows? But I'm willing to do this. I'm going to break Coruscant, or at least the underworld of it. This is my plan to reduce my obligation. Season
2, Broken Coruscant.
You know what? It's a good way to eliminate Coruscant, or to eliminate Coruscant.
Yep.
To eliminate to eliminate obligation.
That would be quite a feat.
Eliminate the individuals that you're obligated to. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. Maybe that is something, like maybe that's what starts our chase sequence at the beginning of the arc, is just like, well, I just talked to a Black Sun person and planted the idea, but then another Black Sun person caught wind and started chasing us or something. I don't know.
Well, we could also go the space pirates route and just find other ships that are more valuable and keep sending them back home to daddy. Like, we capture this ship, and like, we know it's not your baby, but it's like,
there's just a little
5
sticky note
times
on the
as
side.
valuable.
There's just a sticky note on the side that says, to Dad, heart Ellie.
It's a start, right?
To Dad, heart crossed out Ellie.
Oh my goodness.
I want to hear what Kane has.
Yeah, Kane.
Both in obligation and ideas for like where you want to go in general. Like what is Kane's goals?
Yeah, so I've thought a little bit about this. As far as his obligation to the Empire, I don't think he's really actively looking to get rid of that. I think he's okay being hunted by the Empire.
Just kind of accepted it.
Yeah. I mean, not only is he, sort of a deserter, but also he joined the rebellion, so it just kind of comes with the territory. If the situation arises at any point during a mission where we're in an Imperial compound again, and there's a chance to wipe my record from their database, like, I'll take it. But I think he's not actively really pursuing that obligation. As far as the rebels, very, very interested in getting that sorted out. So you talked a little bit about 3 kind of things, is figuring out who set me up, why they set me up, and how I fix it is kind of the general big picture. And I've talked a little about Steven, but I see Kane kind of on a clock. Unless we all decide to join the rebellion. But if we don't, I think Kane gets this sorted out and then sort of walks off into the sunset at the end of this, is kind of how I've been thinking a little bit.
The end of, like,
whenever our journey takes us to clearing that obligation. I mean, there's no set. I'm not like at the end of this arc he has to be gone, but
okay, that's what I was clarifying. Like at the end of the second Sunrise story, even if we use, one thing we joked about was using the ship in different time periods, basically, and so it would kind of be funny to like pick up the next group, in the sequel timeline and be like, okay, well, here's this group on the same ship, but not something that we have to do. But I was just wanting to make sure that you're okay with Kane going away at the end of the Ellie, Kane, Voss, Zarko group. Not that you were like, I'm bored of this character, and at the end of this arc, I'd like to swap. And because that's one of the questions, obviously, that a session 0 in the middle of a campaign can come with. Is everyone happy with their character? Mm-hmm. Does anyone trying to change? Does anyone, like, now that because we were all basically new with the system, is anyone like, crap, I wish I wouldn't have picked this specialization? I still want to keep my character, I want to keep their personality, I want to keep their career, but this isn't really working out for me, can I swap? So I'm not the GM, I'm not asking if anyone wants to do that, but
as the GM, I'm totally fine with that, because I care more that you guys are enjoying your characters and understanding. I haven't gotten the sense from anybody that you're not enjoying their characters, but yeah, by all means. And when Nick and I have talked a little bit about Kane on the side, it's more been like and please correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but like he has kind of a specific set of goals that he wants to accomplish, and when those are accomplished, he'll just he's happy to leave the group,
right?
If it makes sense narratively.
Well, Neofit just made a great suggestion in the Twitch chat, and that is that potentially we could speak with the rebels and see if they can go in and fix your issue with the Empire, and then that transfers your obligation from being an Empire obligation to being in heavier with the rebels.
Right.
But but before we do that, we'd have to get you back in good with the rebels, right?
Right. And that's something that I've looked at for Vosk as well. I'm on the fringes of the rebellion in terms of, we're not using duty, but I have no accumulated. I just did some dead drops and stuff for him. This was our first like rebel job, right? Mm-hmm. So he would be starting from a negative influence with the rebels, and I would be starting at like, I've done a job, guys. But in terms of the obligation, like, we could just say, hey, I'm tired of being obligated to the Hutts. Rebel Alliance, can you pay off my 2,500 credits with the Hutts? And I will be obligated to you. And like, obligation works that way. Like, you can shift it. You can go in debt with a loan shark in order to get the guy that you owe money for that pool game. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So
which if we want to go down the smugglers affiliated with the rebellion, we totally can. I still would prefer to keep it more Edge of the Empire-y than
Correct.
getting into Age of Rebellion. But I think there's some really fun stuff that you could do with.
So then,
that,
it seems like it's probably better for us to focus on like bigger, better jobs. Like we need to because that right now seems like what we really need. Like 1,200 credits seems like it's unless we're doing constantly doing those jobs, it's not going to get us there. We need to get to the 5,000 credit job.
Yeah. So each of us made less than 350 credits for Broken Space, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, like that's the crappy blaster. Like that's it. So there was other rewards. There was the stuff we looted off of bodies, a little bit of armor, a little bit of guns, a couple of utility belts. There was a speeder that we stole. But like at the end of the day, all 6 of those episodes, nobody really upgraded their gear with the exception of Kane, who bought an attachment and then returned it.
Well, I did, but I'm feeling like I spent too much.
Well, you had some money that you started with too, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, I hope I did the math right.
I haven't factored in on the party.
It's fine. You're all cheaters.
Closer look again afterwards.
Yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Like it was an introductory arc, so we weren't looking to make a ton of money. We were looking to establish characters and the world and stuff like that. But I think that we as a story need to establish like either a couple of quest givers or like somebody that we're working for, whether it be a figure on Nar Shaddaa or I want to push away from the rebels, kind of like how Steven said, still keep them on the fringes. That's something that we know the rebels, but like, let's not become an Age of Rebellion game just yet. But like a quest giver who consistently supplies us with jobs and pays us so that we can start upgrading our characters.
I think that it'd be pretty possible to keep us kind of as like privateers of like, hey, they like the work that we did on Nar Shaddaa because like, hey, that was a big thing for them. Like it was a big deal. It did a lot for like their whole plan. So like it would make sense that they would want to keep us around, but also looking at us, it's like, well, wanted by the Hutts, wanted by the Empire, wanted by the Black Sun. They don't want to be publicly affiliated with us. Well, so it would be relatively easy to say, yeah, we get jobs from them, but it's on the down low.
Yeah, it's kind of beneficial for both of you because if y'all get caught, you can be like, no, we're not part of the rebels.
That's kind of how
the hammer doesn't come down
operates by default anyway. Like
so that said, I wrote up a few small job hooks basically for y'all.
Let me add one more thing before we do that, Steven, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So for come back to Zarko's obligation, right?
I moved out of that document.
So like, I mean, I myself as a player, but I feel like also on some level, Zarko would be in a similar mindset of like, now that he's sort of like he's this young kid who sort of got thrust into this situation and is now kind of coming to terms with the fact that like the people he's become associated with are in some form or other in a bad way, and it seems to be primarily financially. So like I'm real serious about the fact that like he just heard about this Hutt treasure planet. So like and it doesn't have to be that in specific, but like maybe it's and we joke about space puppies, right? Fine. But like I think in Zarko's mind, what he is focused on is I'm going to find a way to get enough money to help my friends clear their names. So like,
honestly, not gonna lie, I have definitely also posited the theory of like, look, my space puppy's got to be like 100% thoroughbred. I could very easily breed and sell this puppy's.
Well, progeny. So like, there's got to be collectors, right, that want exotic animals.
We're not selling the actual puppy.
Okay? I know that.
Puppy stays with me.
That's not what I'm saying.
Puppies are fine.
Right.
Also, get your dogs from a rescue.
Indeed. More to the point, I'm saying like some of Zarko's contacts, at least one is probably someone who's like a xenobiologist or something like that. And so he might have a way to like, oh, there's this very rare creature on this, out of the way planet. And if you go get that and sell it to so-and-so in the, in the black market, it could give us a lot of coin. And so some of those kind of things are where I'm at and in what I, and maybe along the way he feels like he might be able to fulfill some of his hopes, dreams, whatever that are tied in with his personal obligation.
Man,
I really like how it's like, all right, here are the problems: Black Sun, Huts, Empire. Solutions: dog breeding.
Well, so
or it could be technology. It could be some ancient artifact or any of that kind of thing. And just how do we get that? The big ticket items.
Yes. I think it's important in this kind of world to have a job board, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you don't have to know every single person that you get a job from.
Sure.
So with that, I have 3 jobs that would be job board-esque, cool, and one that has a more personal connection to y'all.
Right on.
So the first one is from Dr. Vaz Renea. And basically the job is they've picked up some rumors of the remains of a lost medical frigate from the Clone Wars on the edge of the Outer Rim and Wild Space. And on Solonia, they are running desperately short of things like Bacta because the Imperials keep that very well regulated and I can't think of the right word, but they don't let people have it. And
regulated?
Yeah.
It's a controlled item.
Yes.
Vocabulary, again, an educational podcast.
And so she is hoping that there is Bacta and other medical supplies on that ship and is offering 3,000 credits and a portion of the discovery, potentially up to a full Bacta tank.
You know why the healing gel in Star Wars is called Bacta, right?
I don't.
Back to basics?
Because if you put it on your wound, you get back to full health.
Oh, no.
Not one of your better puns, but it still made me chuckle.
Second Sunrise Arc 2, back to the bad puns.
Back to Bacta.
Sorry, carry on.
Second job is by the Vindara Corporation, which is a mining company. They lost a small exploratory shuttle out past the Gordian Reach, which is near Yavin. There is a minimum reward of 3,000 credits for the discovery of what happened. And if you can find at least the ship, the remains of the ship.
Was it a probe or a scout ship?
Scout ship.
Oh, cool.
5,000 if the ship can be recovered and brought back, and 10,000 if you can find a new source of ethromite, which is what they were searching for, which is a replacement for permacrete.
Nick, you can mute yourself in Zoom, before you take that risk.
I thought we weren't supposed to do that.
That's why we're recording in Audacity.
Got it. Noted. Sorry to steal.
Steven?
Yes.
I love hearing all of these things, but for the people with auditory processing issues, you're going to send us this in text, right?
Maybe. We'll see.
Please?
Yeah. No, I absolutely will. Here, I can actually send them all to you right now.
Thank you.
The next job is just a basic job from the huts. If you're on Nar Shaddaa, it'd be very easy to pick up. They have a spice run for that has a drop in Corellia and a drop in Coruscant.
Are you saying we're making the Kessel run?
No. That's a different hyperspace route.
It's very sad. I wanted to make the Kessel run.
We can.
Which hyperspace route would that be?
It's the Corellia. I don't remember exactly.
I think it's just Corellian Way.
Smuggler's Road.
It's the Corellius trade route.
I did not expect you to have an answer for that. That was amazing.
I was looking at a lot of maps earlier today. The last one is you would get a message from a Wookiee friend of yours named Fear Talk.
We're taking this one. I declare it.
Fear Talk needs a small shipment and a mechanic to go to Kashyyyk. To Kashyyyk. And need someone who can install a modification on some droids.
Here's a fun fact. I've been looking at getting into droid tech, and I was considering taking it as Vosk's second tree. And one of the things I wanted to have a sideline, either in this session 0 or just chat with you in private, Stephen, is, are you okay with Vosk learning to make droids, thus giving you NPCs that you have to manage and be the personalities of?
Absolutely.
Can we sell those droids for money?
I might not necessarily try to swing straight for, like, let's get them in combat, but like, droid tech is a thing that you can do, and it's a mechanic tree, and the rules for crafting droids and stuff are in the splat book for technicians.
Yeah, no,
it's heavily probably my second choice for technician trees.
Yeah,
as proprietor of the ship that we are in, who currently has half a droid wired into it, I'm going to demand that as soon as you learn droid tech, you take that astromech out and we sell it.
Whoa.
Such hostility.
My buddy.
Yes.
Also,
just wait till that astromech starts pulling on your emotional heartstrings.
I can't wait.
Also, Kane definitely has a B1 head in his bag.
True.
That has been picked up.
And it was surgically removed, he said. It was not cut off by a weapon. Like, it was very carefully removed. So it should be
So we're just scavenging parts
now. Man. Okay. Wait, hold on. Because also I'm really excited. Because we talked about at some point Kane might go away. And you're learning to build these droids. My next character is the gunslinger old B1 battle droid that we're already creating.
It's perfect.
I'm so excited.
But Nick, what happened to the moment that Kane and Ellie had in the kitchen?
Oh, there's plenty of moments coming.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, every couple has their jostled into each other's space in a spaceship. Like, we've had that. Now we need to go with it.
Tony or Dice Barbarian in the chat had a question about what my visualization of Kashyyyk is. He thought Fallen Order to really nail the primal danger of the planet. I have not played Fallen Order, so I'm not super familiar with it. I don't want to give away too much to the group, but in my head, Kashyyyk is has a pretty heavy Imperial presence. Given their affinity for things like slavery. I
don't like that phrase. Affinity for things like slavery.
I mean, that's pretty well documented about them.
He ain't wrong.
He's not wrong.
And so kind of what the crew would know going into that and taking that job would be, it would be difficult to get into that planet. And so you'd have to find a way to probably go into some of those more wild areas.
Wait, we're just going to have to recreate Holiday Special then, trying to get to Kashyyyk.
You lost me on that.
Star Wars Holiday Special?
Yeah, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Have you never seen the Holiday Special?
Where Kashyyyk is literally heavily controlled by the Imperials, and Han and Chewie somehow have to sneak Chewie home for Life Day.
I have not seen this.
I'm sending you the honest trailer for it so that you can just
we're
get
gonna have a cast movie night.
And we're going to have a cast movie night.
For real. I haven't seen that one. I saw the Ewok one, but for some reason I never saw the Christmas one. I don't know why.
Before we wander too far from
can we do a quick summary of the jobs though? Like just like
that's what I was going to say. Like let's
job one, searching for a lost medical frigate, finding back for Solonians, which are kind of caddish people.
Got it.
And their crew. lost on the edges of Outer Rim and Wild Space.
Did you say Solonians were cat people?
Mm-hmm. You want a picture?
They're space otters, right?
Okay, you're gonna
Semantics.
otter versus cat, anthropomorphic people.
Anthropomorphic furry things.
Yeah. Well, now I'm gonna get the reference picture that I had, and you all have to wait now.
Is he trying to say that cats and otters are the same?
No, I'm saying that when they look like people, they would look very similar.
Very
In
similar.
his opinion.
No,
look
those are
like-
definitely otters. I just did a Google.
They also have aquatic species traits because
There are
they're
plenty of water
otter.
cats.
All right, before you show that, does Twitch have a poll setting? Can we poll chat right
Okay,
now?
fine.
But I can get bots to do that.
It looks a little ottery. It looks.
I want to poll chat.
It looks a little ottery. It's the middle one,
A little.
but it looks a little cat-like too.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
body.
the type
The
of
body's
okay,
a little
cat.
cat.
It's a little cat-like. I'm just saying.
I'll give you that.
But since you're the GM of a space show, you otter know your species.
No, I won't accept that. And it's now a dog species.
You get more obligation.
Yeah, right.
That pun was so bad, you get an extra obligation.
Vosk is now obligated to Solonians for that joke.
Oh man,
It's
No comment.
Anyways, so that one's for 3,000 credits along with
Hey.
a portion of whatever's found.
It could have been called a catastrophe. I mean,
And now you get obligation. This is why I will never be able to do GMing for this system, because I will add to people's totals for bad puns.
I'm grabbing another beer.
sorry.
We broke him.
Dang it. Broke the GM. I love it.
Oh,
At least we get to
We
watch
didn't
him
break
walk all the way
GM,
to
we
beer
drove
fridge.
the GM to drinking. That's very
That's
different.
even
and
worse.
bad.
Sons of Fortune, right?
Good
We missed you.
times.
What
Sons of Fortune, right?
is what book that was?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice. That was a good one.
Nice and crisp.
All right. Sorry. So for real though,
Okay.
Next.
medical frigate.
Medical frigate.
Medical frigate supplies 3,000 credits. Second one, lost mining scout ship.
Okay.
Has kind of a tiered 3,000 for just figuring out what happened, 5,000 if you can bring the ship back,
Cool.
10,000 if you find a new source of ethromite, which is doesn't matter. Job 4 is a job for the
4 or
huts,
3?
or 3. Sorry, I did them I said them in a different order than I typed them.
Okay. Okay. No
I left Fear Talk last. So job 3, spice run for the huts into the core worlds. There's a drop in Corellia and on Coruscant. That's an 8,000 credit job.
Okay.
Last
spice?
job is for Fear Talk. Taking a shipment of something to somewhere and installing something on some droids on Kashyyyk, which will get you 4,000 credits and the loyalty of Fear Talk.
We didn't have it already?
That's dope. Well, we had the friendship of Fear Talk. The loyalty is a totally
Wookiee-
different.
Yeah, Wookiee loyalty.
I love it.
I like all of this.
So we're taking fear tax,
I'm not
but
so
we
keen
might
on the
also take
spice.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't want to go into the core world.
Both
The
as-
mining
It's not
shuttle
until
and Fear
my
Talk were
mob
my
war plan
favorites.
has taken effect.
the Fear Talk and the mining. You said.
The
as-
one where you can find the shuttle and the people, or find a new source. Like,
Lost mining scout ship.
it's not Vosk's favorite thing ever, but like just as a person, it sounds like a pretty solid hook. And
and
then of course Fear Talk is pretty legit.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to take the Fear Talk one.
For those,
As a
for the
player,
fans who love fear talk just
Yeah.
as much as for us, right? Like,
yeah,
as
it's for the fans.
as a player, that medical frigate really speaks to me.
Yeah, likewise. I was
Like-
actually leaning towards that one.
I immediately thought of like that episode in Firefly where they go to the medical facility. And also a little like Dead Space. It's got that like Dead Space. Like I don't know what's gonna happen, but like immediately, like you talk about just a weird floating ship out there, and
The Yuuzhan
I
bomb.
just-
That's what's going to happen.
Are any of these on what do you call it? Like timers? Like, are there like this needs to be done within X amount of time?
I didn't make them. I'm not going to leave them out there forever because things are happening in the galaxy.
Right. Of course.
But like taking a shipment to Kashyyyk can't take that long that we could probably be back for finding things.
Do we find ourselves stuck on an Imperial blockaded planet?
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think from what I've heard, the spice is the least interesting option.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From character wise, like, not that it's not an interesting option, Steven, because it does sound awesome. But character wise, I think it's what we're the least excited to pursue as a group.
Oh, here's
although if we have 2 spice addicts, it might get real fun.
I need to copy these. I'm gonna send them to you in chat real quick. I have to delete a couple things from them.
Valid.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Tony sort of got the point I was coming across. That is like, would there be some way for us to do 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4?
You could probably pull off 2, depending on if everything goes. Oh wow, it's not. I'll send it to y'all on Discord. It's not working on the Zoom
we
chat.
can do it after.
Yeah, that's not
this,
we don't
because
need
like
that
we
Put it
have
in
the
Discord
basics.
so that we have it anyway. Because once the Zoom call ends, then it'll go away.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, no.
Like,
Take your
it's
time.
fine.
We're talking. We can do the writing.
I just wanted you guys to have it for visual reference.
Yeah.
While you're
All right. So
thinking.
what is
Here's
Ellie's?
an
What is Ellie's
idea.
preference?
I was gonna say, here's an idea. We split the party
4
4
ways,
ways,
and we do them all.
one of us takes each.
I don't have a gun. Sorry about that. Because we only have 1 ship, though. That's the challenge.
And a speeder.
And a speeder now.
Which only works on a planet, not
Yeah, I know.
interstellar. So
we have a
what is
mechanic.
Ellie's preference? He's
Sorry,
gonna
what'd
turn
you
a
say, Nick?
speeder into a one-man
He said,
shuttle.
I said we have a mechanic.
Speeder is just a state of
How
mind.
good is
I'm sorry.
all it needs is, you know.
I'm not sorry.
But so seriously, Ellie, what preference? What are your top 2 in order?
I really like the idea of getting to keep a back to tank because Kane hitting the threshold scared me a lot.
So medical frigate is number 1.
I think medical frigate, but also fear talk because
Yeah, I'm feeling that too. All right.
I don't know that it's necessarily in character for Ellie to like fear talk as much as Niffer likes fear talk, though. That's my only problem.
Well, if you want to just
so current
fear
is
talk has treated y'all kindly. Take that for whatever it means.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's
so
just that, like,
when fear talk
least,
did the come on, like, you guys are being dumb.
Yeah, the DM nudge.
All right, how about Kane?
At least
fear talk's probably top of the list just because we have that sort of personal relationship.
Okay.
And then I think if I might be a little biased because Nick is very excited about the medical frigate, but if I was going to try to make an argument in character, I would say that Kane is sort of all for helping people, and that seems like people are going to get the most benefit from our help taking that job. So while we're trying to make money, he's also still very much like wanting to protect people and do the right thing wherever possible.
Look at how very different Kane and Ellie's motivations are.
Mhm.
Protect my people, protect everyone else. It's like, okay.
All right, for Vosk.
The Fear Talk one, it's weird because as a player, I enjoy the established connection there. The actual mission as a player, setting the Spice one run in last place and just talking about the other 3. The Fear Talk one as a player excites me the least in the mechanics of it, but the most in the flavor of it.
Totally.
The mechanics of it, the mining shuttle one excites me the most, with the medical frigate right behind that. But flavor wise, I would put medical frigate and Fear Talk player wise both sound great.
Okay. So then
Vosk as a character, all for helping Fear Talk, but we'll be fine on all three. Like there's no extra love-hate there. Like all three Vosk can mesh too just fine.
Right. Perfect. So for Zarko, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. Like the scouting one the mining ship, scout ship, to me sounds cool. No, sorry, let me say it differently. The medical frigate actually sounds the coolest to me. That was the one that really piqued my interest right away. I think Zarko would be most excited about the mining frigate. And I'm also, I think Zarko also thinks helping Fear Talk is cool, but I also think helping Fear Talk is cool. So, I mean, I think it sounds like from just what we just said that we're probably basically our top two is the medical frigate and Fear Talk. And if we can do two, I mean, I don't see any reason not to go for those two.
Yeah. Again, doesn't have to be decided right now, but just so that Steven can know those things.
And y'all can even just focusing on those two. Well, oh shoot, my computer.
I mean, Zarko would definitely want to go for the mining because it's a scout ship. So I mean, that's his thing. But I think he'd be easily swayed for the back to tank because that's pretty darn cool.
Keep in mind that the characters know about none of them, so there is no
oh, sure.
We don't have to worry about, oh, well, Zarko would go do the mining thing if it just doesn't come up. We may walk up to a bounty board and all three of them are on there, and then Zarko would want to go do it. But if we get notified by Fear Talk to do the job before we ever approach the bounty board, then you don't have to. Not that wouldn't be a cool scene to play out. I'm just saying that it need not if we don't want to.
Timeline wise, in my head, you're kind of getting all of in between that 2 months, you're kind of compiling a couple different jobs that you could do.
Collecting pucks. One just has a medical frigate on it.
So I would like to start off with something big as far as action packed. I can have it be directly related to the jobs, or I can have it directly related to last arc, or I can have it directly related to obligation.
Without spoiling anything, we did talk about starting off with that sort of I can't remember if we talked about starting or recording something for the end of the Broken Space arc, but we did talk about doing that Avengers style post-credit scene.
So we're getting shawarma?
And I don't even...
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we were starting with something like that, or if we were going to record that on the end of Broken Space.
Yeah, I would probably be most inclined to do something almost like just a minute and a half little narrated thing, like the I just narrate before.
Right.
Kind of like how I start all of the Feyforge academies with that little
yeah.
Or just like the yellow text of every Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
The scroll.
It is a period of civil war.
Doesn't really work great on a podcast.
The dead speak.
That's how we start all of our podcasts.
We're rolling the credits.
Dead speak every time. So I would.
Which one excites you the most, Steven?
That's a really good question.
Here's the thing: the 10,000 credits option excites me.
What did you say?
Steven's favorite was the spice run.
The spice run,
and we all said, "Screw that one."
Well, for reference, that one, the spice run, definitely has the least words. In the description.
So all of us didn't like the spice run.
That's Gregory's chase scene. Right
honestly.
there.
I have different reasons why I made all of the different. I like all of them, and so I'm totally happy for all of them. I think what it really comes down to is how connected y'all feel to Fear Talk as your characters.
One of the specific things that I said previously was I want to establish like an NPC.
Yeah.
Even if we see her in Arc 2 and then we don't see her again until Arc 4 or whatever, but like having that established and being able to come back and do jobs, and especially since you said that would be loyalty.
Yeah.
Vosk's home is Socorro, where Fear Talk is. Vosk has been in the town with her multiple months. The rest of the crew has been there much shorter, but like it's somebody we all know. It's somebody that all the characters enjoyed in character and all the players liked. And yeah, we also get to have Steven make Wookiee noises. So like
best.
But that's just like our first solid anchor. We can go make other anchors, but like having just a good solid one where if we're having this conversation before Arc 3, like Fear Talk can tell us about somebody or whatever, but it's going to keep us in those Edge of the Empire kind of arcs.
I like having Fear Talk as a ear to the ground quest giver.
Yeah.
I think that would work really well.
She works in a tavern, like people.
And you could honestly, she works in a tavern that gets high traffic from shady people.
A lot. Yeah.
And excuse me. I think if we set it up as basically y'all head back to Socorro after Nar Shaddaa, like, okay, let's get out of there. Let's get to kind of a neutral place.
Go apologize to the space boyfriend for leaving without saying bye.
Yep.
Kind of get our feet wet, figure out how we're going to get some credits. You would go talk to Fear Talk. And so what I will
if we leave Nar Shaddaa, are we going to lose the lead on that Bacta run, or can we weave
I was going
to
to say you can get that from
Yeah.
Just
basically
I don't need the answer. I'm saying keep that in mind, like where you want to spring that on us.
I think I'm not ditching that. That's too good of a hook.
Are we sure we can't run this like I run SWOTAR, which is to just accept all the quests and just kind of leave them there until I get around to it?
No, you can. Your obligation will start to go up though.
Great.
So I'm happy for you to do that.
But you are.
Okay, I feel good about that. I have some. I don't want to give y'all too much, but I have some ideas for where to start. We've got some good stuff on obligation, how we're going to eliminate it. I wanted to talk about what did we do well in the first arc, and what did we do less well. And I can even start.
Sure.
I feel like from my perspective, from a GM perspective, when you have a whole table that actively engages what you put out in front of them, that's always a good thing. And I feel like that happened. I feel like there's a lot of really good chemistry and really great role playing between everybody. I think for me, what I'm really wanting to work on is smoothing out mechanics and having that go better. And I've taken a few steps to try to have resources laid out better for me and all that kind of stuff. But those are probably my two big things. And maybe right behind those, or right behind that, would be just my proficiency with Roll20.
I can teach you the Star Wars sheets. I know much less like of the snazzy stuff. Like I can do some really snazzy stuff with the 5e sheets. But I can teach you Roll20, and I can teach you what I know about the Star Wars sheets. So feel free to ask questions, or we can just jump in Roll20 and play around sometime. And I can be like, did you know how to do blank?
Yeah, that might be.
Because
I would
feel
love to do that.
Token actions on some of your NPCs are going to really help you. And just being able to like click a button instead of sifting through pages will
and I think
smooth out the
I think
combat.
over the next 2 weeks, kind of before we do the first session, I'm going to put just a bunch of NPCs in there instead of like the day before trying to figure out and throw stuff together. that was not a good route to go. So learning. Okay, so that's my kind of pro and con.
Sweet. For mine, I think we did pretty good, especially since none of us had played together. Like I've played with Nick in a one shot, and I've played with Steven in a one shot, and I've played with Niffer in a one shot, and I've played in one 10 session like arc with Gregory. But for a bunch of pieces that all connected through me, I feel like the group came together really well, and like we had a solid dynamic, and I think our first session 0 helped really set the tone and stuff like that. So I think we did really good as a group. Like everyone got a moment, both in the obligation side of things and in like just telling a story. Like every single person had something cool or funny or whatever. Like Ellie had her moments, Vosk had his cheese fries, Kane had his like
murder every NPC that ever
murder
existed.
Everyone, almost died on a rooftop thing. Like Zarko had his Kane beef, he had his great NPC tie-in, and he had his like sweet run across the desert, scale a building, shoot a guy like scene.
That was fun.
And so like flinging them out, like everyone had moments, right? And so I think we shared the spotlight really well. Things that we could improve. Obviously, we were working on the technical side of things. As we learn more about the technology, and hopefully things like Zoom fixing its stuff, but our recording thing that we're trying tonight on a session 0, where if it doesn't work, cool, whatever, should really help. So that's the main thing. I really want to smooth it down because I'm spending a lot of time editing and I don't have a lot of time, y'all. But also I should get better about talking in character, and I haven't really done a voice for Vosk. Like I've just talked in character with my voice, and I don't know if I want to do a voice for Voss, and if I'm good enough to do a voice for Voss. But I need to be.
Everybody's good enough.
I think it's always really obvious when you are speaking. At least for me, it seems obvious when you're speaking in character.
Because I try, because I know that I'm not using a character voice, so I need to start it with a Vosk says. Or whatever. But
I know this is rich coming from somebody who uses lots of different voices, or at least tries to. I think there are a lot more ways to be in character than voices, and voices are just the obvious way to be like, oh, that person's in character, they're using a voice. But you can be a really bad role player and use a great voice, and vice versa. So
totally.
So I think the way you narrate what Voss does is one of the best I've encountered.
Yeah, I just want to work on fleshing him out a little bit, because like I make jokes, and both in and out of character, I make puns and jokes and stuff like that. But it's something
you make puns. I'm not
across the board that I am trying to be better about, is having more depth to my characters. I always seem to talk the same way regardless of characters. And I'm very repetitive, so I want to add some depth to this guy, especially since we've been most serious on this show, and that's what I got.
Cool.
If you want to talk sometime more about like creating more depth with Vosk, we can maybe when we're doing Roll20, we can chat about that too.
All for it.
And you can also be watching the Star Wars holiday special in the background. It requires like 2 brain cells total to watch. I promise.
Nothing.
Those 2 brain cells try to kill each other for watching. All right, somebody else.
I don't know. So for me, I'm actually feeling like I want to have a little more talk with Nick about Kane more than anything. Like like you said, I really enjoyed the fact that it didn't feel like anyone was ever trying to steal the limelight. It didn't ever feel like anyone was like not getting a word in or being sort of sidelined in any way. Like I really felt like there was a nice, comfortable flow of, who's, who's taking center stage, who's, you know, getting something accomplished, or even if they're not getting something accomplished, at least they're exploring their character and you know, getting some of the stage, sharing the stage. So that was, to me, I think the thing we did the best, if you know, if I had to say anything. At least at this point, I wasn't too concerned with the mechanics. I mean, like, we're all still learning it, and you know, yeah, I mean, maybe it's not the ideal thing to do in a podcast or whatever, but like, so we're going to appeal to people who are still learning it, you know, or who have never even heard of it. But like, I love Kane. Like, as a player, Vosk has an issue with Kane, but to me, that was some of the
Zarko. Zarko has it.
You're Zarko.
You did it again.
Maybe that's what we need to work on.
We really need to work on that.
Zarko really sort of has a problem with Kane, but also is like, can't help himself for realizing like, wow, this dude knows his stuff and this kind of thing. And so like, playing that out in character was loads of fun. So, and even before we started talking about what quests, what, if we're going to use that, what jobs we're going to take, regardless of me just as the player or at Zarko the character, I'm actually like, I think it would be super cool to see, to help Kane resolve his, you know, challenge with the rebels. Zarko doesn't really know enough about it to do that, but at the same time, I think he's in a place where it's like, this is his crew. This you know, this ship, this group of individuals, for better or worse, has come together, and they, for whatever reason, they work well together. And so like, he would probably just want to help facilitate that, whatever that looked like. So it's like, if Ellie needs to get off the hook with her dad, how do we do that? You know, Vosk needs to get off the hook with the Hutts. How do we do that? That's sort of where his thinking would be. Mm-hmm. I think. So I'm really curious to get a little more from you, Nick, about like, I mean, do you, like Steven kind of asked it earlier, it's like, are you cool with Kane still? Do you think, you know, you wanted to try a different character or build, or where were you at?
Yeah, no.
If I have a concern at all with anything that's happened in our group or in our game, that to me would be top of the list, because I for sure want everybody to be having a good time.
No, I'm absolutely having a good time. It was more just when I didn't, you know, we've kind of have trended on the side of being good individuals, which when I was talking to Steven was not the direction I thought we were going to be taking in the long run. And so I didn't really see Kane fitting in for the long haul. But I think as we kind of got it, and this is pretty, I don't know, maybe session 3.
Yeah,
it was like probably
early.
Yeah, probably halfway through the arc. And so, you know, I think it's definitely something that, sorry, I
forgot to.
But yeah, no, I'm absolutely happy with Kane. I think it's just something that that down the road, you know, like I said, once his sort of issues are sorted out, and I'm not saying that's a definitive thing, you know, if we get to there and his issues are sorted out, and you know, he feels this connection to the group, or feels like there's something that's keeping him here, that his goals have changed, then that's
Ellie,
absolutely.
Yeah, so what you're saying is I have to flirt so that you stay. I gotta take one for the team to keep the team together, I guess. Here we go.
So one of the things that I love most about playing RPGs is that I really like telling stories, and I really like exploring sort of like where stories can go and narrative. And it's one of my favorite things outside of tabletop RPGs is watching movies, just because I just love stories, and I love seeing different kinds of people and situations, and so I'm open to literally doing whatever makes sense in the story in the moment, and I'm here to tell a good story. You know, that's most important. But as far as I think our chemistry's been really good together as a group. And I think that's one of the biggest things is I just, I feel comfortable with y'all. And I feel like we're actually picking up the mechanics fairly quickly in a, I know it's not an easy system. But I think we've gotten that, and it hasn't really slowed us down that much. But one of the things I would like more of is I would love to do some more RP. And I think just the nature of having that condensed 6-session arc, like we got to be here, we got to do the thing, kind of prevented some of that. And so just like finding moments where Steven just is like, hey, you're on the ship and it's going to be 2 days before you get there, kind of deals, like just sort of role playing that we're all stuck on the ship. And then that's where we can have those conversations. Gregory,
I'm looking forward to more of that as we move into the sandbox. Like I don't mind the short arc. We did the short arc on purpose so that we weren't one of those shows that started with no goal. We could do the arc and then do what we're doing right now. What do we like? What do we don't like? What's the feedback or whatever? So that's why we started with that. But as we move forward, I definitely look forward to just like this episode was us in hyperspace travel, and we got to find out this part of Kane's background, or how Zarko's parents did blank, or
we finally figured
where
out
the
how
dang
to stop
space
that
puppy came from, or in that kind of stuff.
I know exactly where the space puppy came from. I can't wait to share it with all of you.
But like Zarko said, like I honestly don't care if we spend an episode trying to fix the astromech wired into the hyperdrive. Like,
most of my favorite episodes or sessions that I've been a part of are oftentimes have almost no mechanics involved. And it's just like what I live for as a DM is when y'all get in a situation and I don't say anything for like 25 minutes.
I really like that about the Icefire group that I ran for Gregory. Like I can make the joke about it. Like I told him, hey, we got 3 episodes left, and then they had a shopping episode, but the entire shopping episode was shopping /RP, and I had to do nothing the whole episode. And so it was like, those are the best kind of episodes. But also, you guys had 3 episodes, and you just burned one standing in town talking about life. So you have 2 episodes to beat the dragon. Go.
Yeah. No, I think my favorite Not Quite Heroes episode, if y'all listen, is one where Evanella and Firefly and Gale are shopping. And it's just so ridiculous. It's so good, and I didn't do very much at all.
Well, and Rook and Thad too. They just got into shenanigans on their own as well.
Which we actually ended up recording that separately because this is a behind the scenes thing. They had audio issues and like couldn't get the mics to work, and so like Wade was trying to get Thad's mic going, and so I was just like, they were role playing in the shop, and so I was just like, well, I'm just gonna let them keep going.
Nice.
I have no reason to stop them.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it was great. So anyways, I love that stuff, and I'm really excited about this more long term, because I don't really write in arcs necessarily. I'm
gonna step AFK for a sec. Keep going.
Yes, you like let things play out as they do more organically.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an end goal in mind usually. I have pieces that I know what their motivations are behind the scenes, and I try to let those play out as naturally as possible. And when those are forces that are opposed to the PCs, then things happen. And that's usually where a like climax of an arc ends up. And as we go, they're like in any story, there comes a point where it's time for it to be done.
Sure.
And so letting that take shape, and the protagonists and antagonists naturally kind of just showing up due to choices that were made and stuff. But like I don't go in going like, okay, their goal for this arc is they have to get thing X. That's why you had 4 hooks that were just like, I don't know, maybe they'll go to Coruscant and maybe they'll go to the wild space. I don't know. What is a little bit different about Edge of the Empire, as opposed to like most of my DMing has been in D&D outside of like the occasional one shot, is the Edge of the Empire has less of that hero feel than D&D, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you actually are more just like people in space. And so it'll be interesting figuring out who your antagonists are. What are those like? Is it outside of the obligation? Like, how's it all going to work? Is it just Ellie's family chasing you down the whole time?
Like, we definitely know who a singular antagonist is.
Yeah, well, and that's what's so
That's what's so interesting. I shot one of them
about the whole obligation feature.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just kind of rambling.
It's really cool.
Did I have any other notes?
Well, I mean, I didn't get to take my turn.
Yeah.
I was just and we really didn't hear from Nick of like, you kind of said what you thought was working well. Was there anything you thought we need to do better?
No, I think it just, I would really love to role play more.
Okay.
That I don't think for me we didn't do enough of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call it a problem, but it's something that I really like and would like to see more of if y'all are open to that sort of thing.
Of course, yeah. I think we all felt the pressure, like
of course.
Yeah, like being in a partnered thing, we had to keep up basically as well.
Especially since they were doing every week.
Yeah,
that was really a really interesting dynamic to try to balance the timelines. And Rob and I spent so much time like, okay, this happened in my episode. Where does that put you in relationship to like when this is happening? Like, yeah, it was very interesting. It was really fun. But
the other thing I wanted to say, and I don't know if this is going to be the unpopular thing to say, but I'm going to say it. I think sometimes we need to do a better job focusing in order to get, I feel like we all have a lot of ADHD in this group in particular. And me included, I'm the cause of it, definitely part of the time as well. But I think just like being able to get through things or to stay in character when we are, I think I'd like to see a little bit more of that if possible. I mean, obviously we're playing a game and still having fun, but
that kind of goes with my, I want to be better about being in character. I want to be better about like progressing the game, and like the jokes and stuff is a thing I do, but I joke and stuff to break it's one of the ways that I deal with the fact that I'm not great at like social stuff, but I'm trying to get better about just like play the game, man. Also, everyone say hi to O'Neill.
Oh,
that was perfectly timed.
I have the O'Neill because the O'Neill demands food 24/7, and the baby is asleep, and the O'Neill stands outside the bedroom door and says, "Feed me." Well, it's still an hour until cat food time. So.
No cat food for you.
No cat food for you, O'Neill. Sorry. Not yet.
I'm
anyway.
currently editing episode 6, and there's a point where Steven's like, "There's a cat somewhere," not realizing it's O'Neill in my background coming through Zoom, because even as I mute myself for the stream, I don't mute Zoom. So he's hearing a cat, and it's just this jerk.
Also, was it episode 5 or episode 6 that you were telling me about? There is a spot where you could not cut out Steven going, "Kitty!"
Yeah, no, it's episode 6, because the cat meowing doesn't go in the stream, and the I need to go feed the cat real quick doesn't go in the stream, but there's no way to, he was in the middle of narration and stops and goes, "Kitty!"
Love it.
Sorry,
See,
I didn't mean to. This is the kind of distraction that Nick was just talking about.
No. We derailed kind of often.
That's the thing where like, because the streaming and video side is I'm not used to. I'm used to the podcasting side where you can just cut out me yelling "kitty" pretty easily.
Yeah.
But the video side of it in the middle of me saying something is a whole other ballgame that I'm just not used to. So I'll try not to yell "kitty" in the middle of when I'm narrating. I'll try to save it for when you guys are talking.
Great.
You're welcome. All right, Niffer.
Yeah. Well, going last means that I have had most of the ideas that you have had. So, yeah, just like I think that it would be really cool for us to have more RP and like taking time to like settle into like moments of like we're in character and stuff, because like, you know how like when you when you hug and you're like, oh, this is good at first. Now it's kind of awkward. Now it's really nice. Like, we kind of get to the point where it's like awkward and we don't really give ourselves time to like really get into like the good stuff of RP. And
Not to do that exact thing you're talking about, but have I been hugging wrong?
No, like short hugs, like an in and out hug is good, but you're like, that's the hug. And then like a 1 minute hug is just like, this is really awkward. And then you're like, no, like really long hugs are just really good. Like, totally. I don't know. That's my experience.
I've had different hugging experiences than you have. I mean, that's okay.
Mostly the people that hug me are toddlers who are like clinging, so like I have no choice but to like the hug after a while. So
the old struggle.
No,
I guess we have to Stockholm syndrome ourselves into RP is what I'm saying. Like,
I totally agree. I did a little bit more than I am used to and usually even comfortable with, of like just pushing you forward in like a few spots where like I would normally let y'all walk and talk for a little while. And
and like sometimes I felt that, but at the same time, like maybe that was good for a first arc where like we don't really know each other, but going forward it's like, no, we live together, we're doing this, we're a whole crew, we need to have those times to have those moments, like so I think this is a good way to kind of transition into that type of flow. But yeah, something that I want to say about our pros, like what we do really well, that's sort of been covered, but like I want to explicitly state it this way, is that we cover each other really well. Of like, one of us doesn't know the rules, somebody else speaks up and says, well, it's this, or like we vamp until they have time to like find it.
Or if Steven's juggling one thing, the fact that I have GM rights in Roll20, I can like set the turn order correctly while he's still trying to get his NPC sheet working. That's a very valid point there.
No, that is actually, I think, one of the things that has made the art go really well, is especially seeing as though the first real session of this RPG that I DM'd was our first session. It was really it has been really helpful, and I see no reason to not help each other.
But like we're very good at like seeing where other people's like gaps are and filling them in, and like me taking notes and stuff and like tracking all the NPC names so that you guys are like, what was his name? And I'm like, it's Kai, guys, like come on, your name is Zarko, let's go. Like
I'm so glad I'm not designated note taker, because that's normally my role, and I just got a million other things. So thank you for being designated note taker.
Neophet in the chat just said someone walks in on Kane taking a shower. Story RP encounter.
Oh no!
Yellow card.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Keep it right there.
Okay.
I can't decide who would be the worst.
In what way? Yeah, the worst what?
Which
worst one
of
to do
the
the
other
walking in.
crew members walk in? Which one would be the worst?
Oh yeah.
Because there's like the awkward maybe crush tension of Ellie. There's the I clearly don't like you tension of Zarko. Like there's the I probably stand there with cheese fries.
Hey Kane. What's going on?
Oh, that would definitely be the most entertaining.
Or just like,
he turns around, the space puppy's staring.
Exactly. It's like people who let their pets into the bathroom. It's just like Space Puppy sits there and watches. Like every single one of these would be bad.
Is Space Puppy partially aquatic? Is Space Puppy taking the shower with Kane?
Space Puppy is blue, we decided, and has 6 legs.
It's Vaporeon.
Yeah. Space Puppy is roughly Vaporeon. But we haven't really established anything else beyond that. And that it's like
a
pure
name?
breed. No, Space Puppy is named Emerald after Ellie's dead brother.
Did not know that.
Yup.
Space Puppy's nickname is Jeff.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna call it Kyle.
Yeah, no, lore drop. The puppy is named after Ellie's dead big brother.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else that we needed to talk about? We've got.
None of you have bothered to ask why Ellie has a dead big brother, but I guess we'll get to that.
It just hasn't come out in the game.
We're gonna have the space for the RP.
Exactly.
That's right.
We'll have the space
It's
for the
gonna be
RP.
good.
When someone finds Ellie's brother's head in her back.
Don't you dare! He's been dead for like 10 years.
Yeah,
that would be so gross.
It's in the freezer, Steven. Come on.
That's the smell that Kai and Shay were talking about.
God.
Turns out Dad wants the ship back so much because it's brother's tomb or something.
Oh my God.
Oh, we stole the urn. Oh no.
Just turned into a horror show.
Yeah, right.
So I would like to add something that is not that it's not intended as any kind of a critique or anything like that. It's more just like something I would love to see a little more of. I don't even that's right. I think I'm 100% on board with what everyone's saying about the RP and not feeling the pressure to push the story forward. I think will allow us those natural moments where the RP goes as long as it needs to. And I know I can tell just from the games that we've played as a group, but also from listening to you, Steven, in the other games that you run, that you've got enough of a good sense of like when you need to interject something that I think we will be able to, as you know, as a whole group, to keep that moving forward nicely. I am very, very excited at some point, whenever it makes sense, to do some space stuff, combat, something, running away, whatever it happens to be, chasing, if it's navigating an ice field or however that comes out. I would love to do more of that sort of thing on the ship.
More space stuff.
Yeah, more, and not necessarily. Yeah, just some.
Second Sunrise Arc 2, more space stuff.
More space in space.
Too space, too broken.
No, I agree though. I really enjoyed non-combat encounters, just like as a thing. It's why I bring it up so often on shows like Guest Star and stuff on. And this system is really great at that because you have the social encounter, like playing the skills off of each other and straining each side until one side wins. But the spaceship combat, as rough as it can be because it's its own whole mini game, but also navigating through terrain is a really fun set of rules. And I've only GM'd one campaign of this system, and it was the Beyond the Rim like pre-made module, and it doesn't get into it until later in the thing. I don't want to spoil anything for folks who might want to play that, but the navigating through terrain chunk was super exciting, and even more so because my group had stole another spaceship, so I was doing navigating through terrain with two ships doing things. So I was doing two chase scenes simultaneously, but it was probably the funnest like encounter of that entire campaign was, oh God, they split the party. They're on two ships. I'm doing two chase scenes simultaneously. And unlike combat where, oh, you exceeded your wound threshold and one person went down, hit them with a stem pack. Like if the ship blows up, like that's a real game changer there. So
we better hope those escape pods work.
Rick definitely left one of the ships at one hull trauma. Like it was that close. Like it was one hit point from half the party dying. I will say, the two places that you look like you're going to is a giant forest place with lots of trees to navigate around. And somewhere in the middle of nowhere that you don't know anything about. So there will be opportunities for that. Because I actually know I chatted this to y'all a couple times that like I thought we might get into some space stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions y'all made just didn't
make
it fit. And I try not to force encounters onto groups. But I think it'll definitely come. Sweet. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, Kai and Shay are not on your ship anymore.
I was going to make the joke earlier
goodness.
that they're the ones that walked in on Kane in the shower. But
hoping for
Walked
some
in.
alone time.
yeah, I was saying they were heading towards the shower.
Not at my ship. Not on my ship.
Well, that's why they're looking for private space. You know, Ellie keeps like smacking Knuckles with a ruler.
Also, I thought it was Vosk's ship.
It's my ship, dang it.
I think that's the running joke, though, is
But
that like, we
whose
all
speeder
refer
is
to it
it?
as my ship.
It's my ship.
It's like whenever
good.
Zark was talking about it, it's like, hey, meet me back at my ship. And then whenever, Vosk is saying it,
That's
Yeah.
good.
I thought that was
not to ruin the joke or anything, but the plan there was that Vosk referred to it as his ship multiple times throughout the session until something happened. And then once it broke or did something bad, he was going to call it, well, it's your ship. Like, I can't believe you're... But it just didn't play out that way. But the whole
I like
time
this.
of
Keep
episode
this
5,
going.
he kept saying, well, my ship, my ship, my ship. But I was waiting on something to like a landing gear to fall off or something like that. So I'd be like, hey, man, your ship's
Take
broke.
care of your ship.
I got to go back and fix your dang ship. But
No,
that
we
was
can
that was
definitely
the
keep this
joke there.
going.
So
Can we talk about something technical? No, I'm sorry, Steven.
No,
You were
no,
about
no,
to
no,
say
no.
something
Hey,
after you.
no, I was just gonna move the conversation along. Go for it.
Oh, so I want to talk about something a little bit technical, and this might not be the forum for it. Maybe you want to leave this for like Discord and that kind of thing. But I'm thinking about like the like our Twitch fam here that are amazing and always contributing. What do we want to do about things like getting some emotes in there and that sort of stuff? I would love to see us starting to maybe do that kind of thing.
I've
puppy
been
emote.
lazy about it, but I was going to definitely put the chibi stuff as
all the chibi,
emotes.
I want to
all of
actually
our
talk about that.
characters and this.
I need to dig into it, and I just haven't had the time. I know as we meet certain tiers of affiliate and certain numbers of subscribers and stuff like that, it unlocks more. So I need to go look. But Twitch emotes and then badges for like I've been subscribed for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Those are things that are on my to-do list, and I haven't transcribed them into Trello yet, but definitely something I'm tracking because I'm tracking it for my channel as well. So yeah,
I do.
let's keep that conversation going.
I do want to talk
Discord.
about the emotes though at some point. It doesn't have to be now, but it could be later. Just heads up.
One thing that I just thought of, and I was thinking of before I went to go get the cat, the Force is something I wanted to bring up in this. Ellie is picking up Force talents. That was amazing, by the way. Ellie's picking up Force talents and stuff like that. So I didn't want to pressure anyone, but I wanted to throw out, hey, is anyone else planning on picking up Force trees on their character? Or like...
If we do continue the ship story without these 4 characters, then probably yes, because I definitely want to try that out with this game system.
Oh yeah, I mean, with
but
these
not
characters.
for Zarko. No way.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be cool to do like a Republic Force.
Something that I want to do is the Force is really big in the Clone Wars, of course. I don't know enough about Old Republic, with the exception of what little bit of SWTOR experience I have. But the Clone Wars one shot, definitely open to having Jedis. But I was curious down the line somewhere I might run a Clone Wars arc, even if it's just 6 like Broken Space, 6 session arc. I don't care if all 4 characters are Jedi, like, go for it. But for this story, we had talked about keeping Force kind of towards the fringe and doing more of the like scoundrel, Edge of the Empire, bounty hunter type stuff. So I just wanted to see, Ellie, your plans with the Force, like how crazy are you looking to get?
The Force has never been like, oh, I'm going to be a Jedi. It's much more of like, I've kind of pictured it as like she's always had like, she's the face role of like she has influence with people. She can generally talk her way into things, and maybe it's one of those things where it's like, well, the Force has kind of been nudging her the whole time, and like mechanically now she's getting a little bit stronger in those areas. Like the only couple of talents that I'm picking up are like, you're harder to recognize in public because you can kind of mask yourself with the Force, and like you can nudge a person's feelings a little bit more, and like really light stuff, and really like very complimentary with her politico tree.
That's kind of the question there was. Again, no answer you give now locks you in forever. But I was just making sure, like, hey, are you looking to be a better liar, or like, do we need to figure out how to build you a lightsaber? Like,
no. I never want a lightsaber. I never want to be in
two completely
combat.
different paths. Yeah,
right.
I have Kane and I have Zarko for that. I have two very big guns. I don't need another weapon.
I was planning on keeping the and it might change a little bit the more experience y'all get and the stronger your characters get, but keeping the Force stuff from encounters even that you would run into pretty far, because I feel like most Force sensitive people at this point in the galaxy are very hiding or very bad.
Yeah, because like looking at Ellie's age, she was a toddler when all of the younglings got killed at the temple. Like she was literally of age to have been brought to the temple, and her parents said no, basically. And so like she definitely is not like, I want to develop Force powers a lot. Like she doesn't want to go into training that way. It's only like, well, I can use this little part of it for my own benefit. So
very transactional relationship with the Force you got going there.
Hi, welcome to Ellie's entire existence. She's trying to recover.
I love it. So
I'm curious about something else that's a little, I guess, another mechanic thing, and maybe it's something different between Edge of the Empire and the Genesis system, and it also might have been just how you structured the arc. The experience is going to be consistently 10-ish per session. Is that what your thought is?
That
because
was my next question.
So for Genesis, it said about 20 per session, and I was wondering if that's the case, why did you do that?
The way in the book, from what I remember when I read the experience section 4 months ago, is it's 10 to 15 per session, basically like 5 per encounter.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's roughly how the official module, the one that I have experience with, does it. And then the starter set the same way. It does a couple of encounters and then lets you level up. It lets you spend XP halfway through. It's like, here's a good chance. Let them, spend a couple of XP on talents and stuff like that. So we're roughly on par, especially since we only play 3 hours instead of like a 4 to 6 hour game. Like if we were doing a weekend, like 6 hour game night, we're about on track. But XP was one of the questions I was going to ask as well. Like, is everyone okay with the 10 to 15 a week, or should we ramp it up because we only play every other week, or what? But I mean, I'm comfy as we are, and this is my first time playing the system, so this is the first time I've actually got to like spend XP on my character. But also I'm like super excited that the characteristic upgrade, dedication or whatever it is like my next thing, and then after that it's my signature ability, and I'm like so close. So
yeah,
but that's all I got.
I do think we will probably land more in the 15 realm.
And again, it depends on what we do.
I'm happy to do more. It does depend on what we do. I think like you'll still get XP even on like if we have a whole RP session. I'll still get XP because I do want y'all to keep building it. I do think the slower gain of XP with a new system is a good way to do it, so that we're not like like for me, one of my big fears with this is in a lot of ways the mechanics are really simple, and a lot of ways they aren't. Is just getting overwhelmed with like, oh, I can do this.
You
I can
raise
do that,
valid points, especially because starting at night level play is what some people call it, where like in the one shot that Gregory just ran, you build your characters, and then once you're done building characters, you're allotted 50 or 100 or whatever XP to spend, so it doesn't go towards characteristics or anything. It's like starting at level 3 in D&D. It just adds that much more stuff that you got to factor. And it's not necessarily true. A person could take that extra 50 XP and just go, okay, well, I have most skills, and that's it. But as you introduce more talents, and you introduce the option of picking up more specs, and you introduce like, I'm going to become force submergent or whatever, like you add more things for the new DM to have to juggle.
Yeah.
But the rate we're going, we just did 6 sessions and did a whole arc, and nobody hit the end of their tree or started getting signature abilities or anything. So it was a nice training wheels thing. And from here on, you still have probably 2 more sessions before I start, like, 2, maybe 3, before I'm like, check out my cool signature ability, and you have to start juggling that kind of thing.
And I'm also going to start throwing a few more credits your way. Because I think the one of the things that's really cool about this system is equipment. Equipment has a lot of really fun options. So that
robot arm, jetpack and a robot arm.
A jetpack with a robot arm.
You're killing me.
Just like Mando.
It's like the Mando one, yeah.
Is it hot in here?
Spoilers. One of the things I complained about on the Star Wars RPG subreddit about the module that I ran was that the characters basically started with exactly the same gear. They started and ended basically in the same clothes with the same guns and everything, because it was a very like way out in the middle of nowhere kind of campaign, and there was never a chance for a shopping episode. There was a couple of things that they picked up along the way that were mostly just like one use type items, but other than that, like in this system, you don't start with a ton of money, and like unless you take the obligation for the extra cash, most characters like buy a comm link, a piece of armor, and a basic pistol. Done. And so like that's still what Voss has, except for the stormtrooper boots.
Yeah, I'm like, you stole some pretty neat shoes.
Yeah,
you got a disruptor pistol. What are you talking about?
Right, but I'm saying like shopping, right?
Yeah, I know.
I've not bought new tools. I've not bought like a new the motion tracking scanner thing that looks really juicy and stuff like that, because it would literally eat all of my cash.
Yeah.
But there are so many cool gadgets and goggles and all that stuff.
Weapon attachments and upgrades.
And
there's a lot. I'll have to, one of these days,
but save that for like, if my suggestion, Stephen, is that you set that aside for maybe one of those little side things. Is like, maybe there's some dude out there, some lady, some guy, whatever, some alien that is like, that's their thing. You know, they're like, if you're going to find a weapon tech, this is who you go to. And, you know, maybe Kane gets wind of it or something like that. And
y'all did miss out on, let me see if I can find it and send it to you.
That would be super fun for me.
I don't know
even if I wasn't benefiting from it, I would just think
we were in a weapons factory.
You were in a weapons factory and you didn't look for anything?
Yeah. No, I thought about that, but I was so out of it that whole game. And this will be the first like on mic time I complain about it. But for anyone listening and anyone in the chat, I completely spaced on the fact that Vosk has the ability to do the bad motivator on like the thing that killed hundreds of thousands of people over the course of like an hour. But last session, the finale, I was running. I spent like 45 minutes AFK dealing with the baby, and so like I was totally getting ready to geek out about what I could steal out of that factory in loose stuff lying around, but also like mechanical parts. And I was like, all week, like, man, I'm going to point right at that thing and just spend a story point and turn it off. Like, suck it, Steven. And then completely spaced on it. And so Vosk doesn't know he has that ability, but like from a player standpoint, like, man, there was so much that I didn't do in episode 6.
Dang it.
Yeah.
It
still worked out pretty cool.
I had a whole thing that you guys are going to get to roll on if you started looking for stuff, like to see if there's any equipment. There were some different like weapon mods. And
so since we're still on Nar Shaddaa,
yeah, can we just walk back into the explosion and just snag some
Kane
things?
blew that whole thing up. Well, I mean, at least Cousin survived.
Shoot. Yep.
All right, but that's all I had. So,
yep.
So excited.
But I think that kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier. Is like I feel like my initial thought for who Zarko was this young kid who's just like, I'm gonna go explore the stars. But I think that like because of the series of events that's been happening, now I feel like more like it's almost inbred into who he is. It's like inbred into his nature. His parents were he had one parent is a scientist, the other is an engineer. So like research and details and information is sort of like it's one of those latent talents that he maybe tries to deny, but it's still there. So I feel like those are exactly the kind of things that like whenever he's got some spare time, he would be trying to get that information.
Yeah.
With an intention of helping his friends.
And I think that's going to add a really great role play aspect to those hyperspace trips, like that time on the ship where y'all just have to do stuff.
Okay.
Because you got weeks to talk about like, so Ellie, what's the deal with your family? Like you can, all that sort of stuff. Oh, no.
Take a deep breath, spill the whole backstory. When I was just 2 years old. No.
Wow, Veggie
Points
Tales,
for that reference.
Veggie Tales reference.
My poor hairbrush.
Two different.
I'm a Twilight. I don't have hair.
That was a second.
So I gave it to the
VeggieTales
Peach because he has hair.
Oh, this is bad, guys. I don't know if I can hang with more VeggieTales references.
I'm a preschool teacher.
Okay, so taking the Fear Talk job.
Yep.
Approved.
Medical frigate 2 if possible.
Probably.
We'll see how it rolls out.
You got to survive Kashyyyk and all the Imperials there.
Yep.
That's why I was thinking maybe we do the medical frigate first. So we have the medical supplies in case we need.
Yeah. I want
Also
those
valid.
faster.
Do you want to start on Socorro in Fear Talk's lounge?
I'm fine with that.
That's kind of cool.
Began.
2 months later, back at the bar, the same way we started the last one.
Kind of cool, actually.
That's kind of.
Yeah,
I'd love to see. So you talked a little, 100% agree. Starting on Socorro, but you were talking a little bit about like that opening narration, like you do in Faeforge. I think it'd be really cool if Ellie did it. Like, hey, gang, here's what we've been up to. Kind of deals. Like we've been traipsing through the galaxy and getting into some shenanigans.
In character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Ellie, not necessarily Niffer.
Yeah, not Niffer.
I think like, hey, I'm captain of the Second Sunrise, and here's my captain's log kind of deals. I think that could be a lot of fun.
I think that would be a great start.
I like that.
I think, let's work and like write it out so it's really got that good feel, and we can either do it at the beginning of the first stream, or we can even just record it separately. Yeah. The other thing, actually, this is more of a production side thing than a story side thing. So podcast versus stream versus YouTube. We've talked about this being like we want it to be a really good produced podcast. But we've been putting a lot more effort into getting the VODs up. Do we still feel like that's the case, or
without sounding like the guy that's always complaining, because I know that my trademark wit and sarcasm doesn't clearly convey in text. I am the one that's sinking between 10 and 15 hours in between every game in doing the stuff, and I'm doing it all alone right now. So I'm behind on the audio side because I'm barely keeping up with the video side because like I'm not even done with episode 6 yet. I'm planning on doing it since I have a 4-day weekend this weekend. I want each episode up the weekend before we play so that it's around, but there is a small tiny human in my house and I still have a job and still have school and stuff like that. The podcast would definitely be my focus, and I would love to be like somebody else's video editing. I can focus on the podcast. But
how do we do that? Because
somebody else steps up and starts helping.
Well, I feel like we keep coming back around to this. I'm happy to do the editing.
Yeah. And not calling anyone out, but like I asked for help on episode 5 because episode 5 was so terrible, and like I was using Steven's videos from Zoom, or your video, Steven's audio from Zoom, and my own track because of the amount of tech problems on episode 5. And I was like, y'all, I'm going to need help on 5, even if it's just syncing the stuff. And nobody did nothing. And so I did it all by myself.
Sorry. I think I was just waiting for you to tell me what you literally needed done. Sorry about that.
And again, not trying to like air laundry on the stuff, but like multiple times I was like, guy, stop helping Halcyon days. I'm going to need help with this. And it didn't happen. And so I fell even further behind. And so I am cool with the podcast thing. I still want to do a good podcast. That's what this whole thing came from. Seeing the video and keeping tossing it up on YouTube and stuff is bonus features. But if you want me to make a good podcast, somebody needs to help with the video side. Even if it's just cutting out the break in the middle, slapping the outro on the end, throwing some music on the intro and outro, and then hitting published. And I'll take a look at it after and quality check it still, but like can't do both.
Yeah, I think y'all what have you been using for the audio? What are you using for audio editing?
Since I have done all of the work in Resolve and have all the tracks there, it's just that much easier to match it to the master track, because then I can make the audio basically reflect the master track of the video where I've already cut out the break and stuff like that. So I know what is show worthy. So it's just easier to dump the audio tracks in Resolve and then make them match the master audio track that matches the video. I then delete the video and whatever. But regardless of which program I was using, I would need just the master track and some time to do it. And I can't do it all.
Because I would be willing to do some portions of the audio editing because that's what I'm familiar with and that's what I could jump into pretty quickly, but I don't use Resolve.
You don't have to. I'm using Resolve to do the audio editing because I'm already doing 80% of the work that I would do for the audio editing to do the video editing. So it's just easier to line up since it's already in that program.
I mean,
if we're doing this thing where we all get the actual tracks that are in sync with each other as far as the time goes, bam, that's like 90% of the nightmare is making it match the master track. And if you just give me all of them lined up, or we butt the beginning up, and I can go in and cut out the break in the same spot on all the tracks at the same time, so much work gone.
Well, and if you're using Resolve, I think you can actually auto sync all of that based on to the master track.
Right.
I think you can highlight all those tracks and just
once the tracks are the same. We talked about this in Discord.
Yeah, there was a whole fancy graphic.
Yes, there was.
In a way.
The way that Zoom messes up the tracks, the auto sync in Resolve doesn't work because it doesn't realize that those are the same audio tracks.
Right.
And not something we need to get into now, but the thing we're doing tonight should help that insurmountably.
I guess what I'm offering is I can do half of what I do for Fayforge, probably.
But you're also the GM and have like 17 other fucking projects.
You can't prove that.
I can.
Hi,
can
I have
imagine.
screenshots of you telling me, "Hey." So
But with that said, I'm getting to a point where I need to walk away. The baby's waking up and stuff. I'm not kicking y'all off, but if y'all want to keep going, I'm gonna walk away, and y'all would need to tell me to come back and
Let's wrap the stream up so that you can just do your thing.
Sure.
So yeah, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us while we do our little session 0, work out the details. Hope you like seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Sorry for killing it.
We are Tabletop Galaxy singular.
I feel like we got everything done, right?
okay, but now you just said Tabletop Galaxy, and then the next word started with an S, so it still sounds like Tabletop Galaxy.
Tabletop Galaxy singles.
Still did it.
I'm
right.
walking away.
Singular, that's what you said.
And
We're not Tabletop Galaxy singles.
we love you. And did he leave?
Wait, no, don't leave because we got to do the Audacity thing.
Do our
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
How do we do that?
We love you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Twitch stuff. Mwah.